One of the best features of Machine really has to be the drum synths. These are really great sounding, easy to use little instruments. And I call them little because they're very small. There's not a lot of parameters you have to be worrying about here, just a handful. So with all of them, you can get a wide array of tones and instrument styles just by turning a few knobs. So it's very immediate and very musical in that sense because you're really not combing through samples. You're just kind of turning some knobs until you get the sound you want out of your head. And that's really, really good. Now, one thing about drum synthesis in general is it can be quite complex. And so we don't really know what's happening underneath the hood here. In fact, NI keeps it very secretive. I've asked many times and they don't want to tell you exactly what's going on. I can only imagine that there's a series of modules that are tailored for each specific drum synth. Because kicks and snares are going to be different than cymbals and hi-hats. So something is happening under the hood to create these intricate tones. And with cymbal synthesis, it's very important to understand that getting a good synthetic cymbal is not necessarily that easy. It's definitely not as easy as just throwing on like a white noise generator with a long decay and calling it a day. There's a lot more to it than that. For instance, if you look at the block diagram of the classic Roland TR-808, you will see that they used a series of square waves and then running through multiple filters and VCAs to kind of create a complex sound. When you hit a cymbal, it's a very complex sound. You can't pinpoint specific frequencies. It's just like a wash, like a fog of partials going on. And so to create something like that, the easiest way would be to use FM synthesis. Because we know with FM, we can create very complex tones and timbres just by modulating the operators. So if you happen to have FM8, you can go to the factory library and browse for drums, cymbal, and there's a couple. Load up the analog cymbal patch and just take a look at exactly what it is. Very similar to the TR-808 synthesizer cymbal. So we have a bunch of square waves operators tuned in different ways and then affecting one another, also while running through noise and a high-pass filter. So what you get is very complex. If I just start to take away some of these modulations, you'll kind of hear the sound become more generic. It's just a simple square wave that trails off over time. So if we look at the spectrum, as we start to add and modulate the frequency, you create very interesting variations. Almost noise, but different than noise. And you can see a lot of these are even feeding back into itself. So really interesting, complex stuff. So what I'm really impressed with is how well the cymbal drum synth actually sounds and the kind of versatility you can get from it. So let's take a quick look at exactly what the crash and ride engines are doing.